This is the Newsload.
Hi, I'm Carrie Anne Stevenson, and I'm with the Newsload, and I'm here with Keith Brown. Hello.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
No problem, no problem. So, where are you right now?
I'm in London, Ontario. I'm actually in my childhood bedroom right now.
Oh, that's adorable. Look at the poster behind you, your little, wall.
That's the first time I ever rented a theater in London at the Arts Project, believe it or not. That's the poster from that show.
Adorable. So, how old were you doing that?
I was probably like 15 or 16 at the time. I rolled into the Arts Project and I was like, hey, I want to rent a theater. What do you have available? And I think it was a Tuesday. And they're like, we have something available Friday. And I was like, I'll take it. And I did a show with my friend, Scott, and we did 2 shows in the same day. And it went so well that then I booked it again. And that's actually what this show is. So that's the second time I realized that I ever rented a theater by myself. But that was the first time I did a show completely by myself. And I was like 16 years old at the time.
That's adorable, Keith. So, where were you born?
I was born in London, Ontario. I was born like a block from this house, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh, you're a local.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay, do you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. I'm the youngest of 3 boys.
Oh no. Oh no. So were you
Yes.
boys chirping at each other night and day?
We're actually quite good friends.
No, but when you were growing up, were there any?
I'm sure there was some squabbles, but that's all a part of just, growing up as one does.
Oh yeah, a house full of boys. It must have been very loud.
Mm-hmm. We actually all had an interest in magic. My eldest brother was the first person to get a magic book. It's probably on this shelf somewhere here. But he more liked the history of magic and the stories and reading about magicians of the past. And then my middle brother, he's the one who actually like first learned a trick and showed me that trick. And I was so enthralled by it that I bothered the crap out of him. I was like, you need to tell me. You need to tell me, like, how does it work? How does it work? And he finally told me. And then we started performing for my friends' parents when they would come over for dinner. And that's sort of how it all snowballed.
You're Beyonce.
Yeah, pretty much. You do not want to hear me sing.
So sorry, I'm enthralled to know about your mother of all these boys. How is she?
She's great. She's got she's got 2 grandkids. One of them's a girl. She's over the moon right now. But no, my parents are fantastic. They've been very, very supportive throughout my lifetime. And I wouldn't be here without them today.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Does she have a job?
Raising 3 boys. No, actually my parents are retired. They retired in the last year. But they've been working their whole lives.
Yeah. And what was her career as a mother of boys?
Well, she raised us, but then also she worked with my dad, and my dad managed money.
Oh, okay. Accountant, bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good money. That's good. That's how you feed all the hungry boys. Good. Wonderful. Could you tell me about, I know that you perform all over. Do you have a favorite crowd reaction that you recall?
That's a really good question. I think it would be more like the unexpected ones, because there's some things where you're like, oh, this always gets a laugh, or this always gets like a really good round of applause kind of thing. There was a number of years ago, I was performing in Orlando at the Orlando Fringe, and I was doing a trick that put me in the hospital. And I was telling the story of how it put me in the hospital, and I was sharing my x-rays and my photos. And I more or less was kind of goading the audience. I was like, well, do you want me to do it now? And there's all these people at a festival, and some of them had been drinking, but like, I just remember the sheer pandemonium of the crowd of like, yeah. And people kind of going crazy wild, like they wanted to see me do this trick and maybe put myself in the hospital again. But there was this little boy on stage. His name was Hendrix, and he comes to my show every year with his grandmother. And he was like, no. So like there's this big response from the audience, and then there's this very quiet voice on stage that says no. And I was like, what? And he's like, I don't want you to go back to the hospital again. And it was like the sweetest little thing ever. And I had to like get down on my knee and pinky promise this boy, I'm like, hey, like I'm not gonna go back to the hospital, I promise you. We're gonna do this trick right.
Okay.
And then the trick worked out perfectly. And then, I've kind of developed a relationship with this family as well. Like he ended up inviting me to a pizza party at his grandma's house with a bunch of other fringe performers, which was really cool. So to me, it's stuff like that, like the things that you don't really expect or that are outside of the ordinary kind of thing. Like another example I can think of is I was doing a show in town at the Wolseley Barracks for a bunch of families who are like in the military and things like that. I can't remember the name of the organization off of the top of my head. But afterwards, this mother came up to me and was like, thank you. And I was like, oh, like, thanks for having me kind of thing. She's like, no, like, thank you. My son doesn't talk to strangers. He doesn't touch other people. Like he barely gives me a hug kind of thing. And you got him up on stage and you got him talking, you got him interacting with you. You gave him, like, he gave you a high five after the show. Like I've never seen my son do that before. So to be honest, it's little things like that. Like as great as it is to get a standing ovation, like I can definitely think of times like that. To me, it's more when you do make a connection that you don't expect that does have more of an impact on somebody. Those are the ones I'm gonna remember the most. Yeah.
That was beautiful. That's so nice that you're so connected with your fans and they're so lovely. I love that. So beautiful. Do you have an embarrassing moment on stage?
Well, absolutely. I've messed up every trick at some point or another on stage. I guess there's kind of two that can pop to my head. Ooh. Well, I guess that one kind of worked itself out, so never mind. Let's not tell that one. Yeah, pretty much right after high school, it was my first year of university, and my high school, Sir Frederick Banting in town, they have a leadership conference every year where they have a bunch of high school students go to like a Camp Stevenson, I'm pretty sure, at the edge of town, and you just spend all day doing leadership activities and, making friends and hanging out kind of thing. And they would hire me, like my high school hired me for like a decade straight, pretty much. And so I go back to this show and I'm pretty sure I'm in this room. I'm like eating food. I'm getting ready for the show. And I look at the clock and I realize, oh my God, I need to leave immediately. Like I forgot how long it takes to drive to the edge of town. Like you need to leave. And so I hop in the car, I drive to the show. I'm like, hey, so sorry, like set up my stuff. And as soon as it's there, 200 students walk into the room. So it's like immediately you're performing. And sure enough, I'm doing this trick and it involved consuming a lot of liquid, like a whole liter of liquid. And that goes fine. But typically afterwards, like I have the urge to burp. And if I'm doing like a big corporate audience, I'm not going to burp in front of people who are paying me well as people who don't know me. But half of this room is my friends or my friends' siblings. Like I was going to be in that room last year, kind of thing. Like I'm not too far removed from this high school world, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna burp for you. It'll be funny, and you all know me. Well, I do burp, and then suddenly it is not a burp, and I'm fighting very, very hard. And then I pretty much have to grab whatever container I have on stage with me, and I vomit a little bit of liquid out. And I stand there and I'm like doing deep breaths, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, like don't let the rest of this come out right now. Like, do you have to walk off stage and just like empty your stomach? Oh my God. And then I just took a few more deep breaths. I set this container down and I continued with the show as if nothing had happened. And afterwards, my friend was like, my favorite part is when you puked. And it kind of became like a legend. Like there's a friend that I saw years later. They're like, "Oh, the last time I saw you is when you puked on stage in front of everybody." And I was like, "Oh, like." So like things do happen, you know, like you leave a prop off stage or something breaks or like a trick just doesn't work the way you want to work. But I learned that I need to eat so far in advance prior to a show, especially if you are consuming so much liquid. I no longer do that trick. That's the only time that's ever happened. Yeah.
Lesson learned, eh? And I love that people don't forget.
It's certainly a memorable moment when that happens. But I don't know, that was at least like I would have been 18 at that time. So that's like that's over a decade ago.
So funny, so funny. So as a touring performer, do you have any relationship advice for other young performers?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you got to do what your heart wants, and if your heart wants to be on the road, go do that thing. As well as if you do want to be in a relationship, awesome. But also, I think that you would need to establish certain expectations or boundaries, because some of the people that I have had relationships with don't fully understand or haven't fully understood my life, especially when it does come to me going on the road. Because I don't work a typical 9 to 5. Like I may work every day making phone calls and doing emails and doing promotions and things like that, but I don't always have a show or a performance or a talk or something like that to give or an event to go to, as well as for the most part, like I have to travel to work. So it's really nice when I do get to do stuff like this over the computer, or I do get to work in my neighborhood, but like that's a rarity to me. So like we might have plans, but if I get a phone call and someone offers to pay my rent, I have to go do that. You know, so having someone who does understand that, you know, you might have to leave at the drop of a hat, but like you will come back, is nice, and that's not for everybody. It's also nice if you get to take them with you. But yeah, it's a different lifestyle that most people aren't used to. So I would kind of say, hey, like take it as it comes. But like if this is the thing that you want to do and you need to do, like on some biological level, the thing that drives you and makes you passionate, then try to find someone who understands you and is going to support you in that life.
Amazing, amazing. Um, do you consider yourself an influencer?
I mean, not necessarily in the probably the modern sense of like, oh, I'm a social media influencer, but I don't know, maybe I guess like I do have some tricks where I talk about influence and we influence people on stage to make certain decisions. So maybe in that respect, I would say yes, but no, like I don't post every day on social media or do TikTok or things like that. And you know, here's 3 reasons of blah blah blah. Social media is part of the game to me, but I do also like that's a whole nother job and that's a whole nother hat that I have to wear. So I wouldn't say I'm a social media influencer, but yeah, I would say like I'm an influencer in my community, because there's things that, you know, you might inspire someone to, you know, pursue their passion. You might, you know, influence someone to come out downtown and support local. You might influence someone's career by depending on who you have on your lineup kind of thing, or where you do an event. For instance, like we have an event coming up in London in 3 weeks. It's May 10th at the Wolf Performance Hall. And that's like very much a community minded event. Like instead of just renting a theater, doing a show, selling some tickets, we're like, hey, we have everyone on the lineup was chosen with purpose because they're also doing events in London and we want to bolster their audience, kind of thing. So it's like, hey, you're doing something a couple weeks after me. Why don't you come on my show? We'll promote yours. We'll get more people to come out to you, as well as we're going to be doing something at a local restaurant, Grace Restaurant. And And I know they've been having hard times during the pandemic. Like they've had a couple of windows broken, as well as like the downtown strip has been, renovated or under construction kind of thing. So we're like, hey, how do we bring all these people downtown, but then how do we get them to interact with other local businesses and support locally kind of thing? We also like have reached out to a lot of organizations to say, hey, like, would you like to support our efforts here and use some of your influence as well? So we have a few sponsors. We also have like downtown dollars from downtown London kind of thing. So I guess, yes, in a way, I would say I am an influencer, but I'm just not one on my phone, taking selfies all the time.
You're actually on the road. You're hitting the pavement and you're dealing with the people directly instead of everything like, hey, I gave a homeless guy a meal. Look it on Instagram kind of thing. And then they walk away and the meal was $400. And it's like, are you helping?
Yeah, like as much as I would like to make money off of social media, I definitely do not. I'd rather make an impact on a one-by-one basis kind of thing. And to me, it's like I said afterwards, it's the people coming up after my show and saying, hey, thank you so much. Like, you know what, I've been having a bad day or a bad week, or actually it's been a bad month. And, you made my day better and made me, have a sense of play and wonder again. So thanks for just, making an impact and a difference in my life kind of thing.
And it's being able to follow your passion and follow your journey that I admire so much about you. And I've seen you at several shows and enjoyed every single one of them because you're not only bringing almost like a different flavor every time because it's been so many years, so you continue to grow and learn, but also working the room, figuring out space. And you did something with the TV that really threw me off. I was totally like, how did that was awesome. So, I really recommend anybody in the London area or being able to go to your website to be able to see your next show because it is a live, like in person. You have to see it to believe it because it's magic.
Absolutely. I really appreciate your kind words. Thank you so much.
So, you've been to Vegas.
Yes.
So I must know, it's tea time. Excuse me. Who in Vegas is like your like starstruck? You were blown away and tell me what happened.
Sure. I've been hired a number of times to like speak at conferences in Vegas. So it's someone bringing me in to perform at an event. But while I'm there, I try to, again, support local and go see the other shows. Even though they are world famous, and the first one that pops off of my head is Penn and Teller. Me and my friend Scott Hamill, he's another magician and performer. He's got like Guinness World Records and stuff like that. He's totally awesome. We went to Las Vegas and we went to Penn and Teller. We also went to other magic shows like Matt King. Matt King was hilarious. He did a bit where he eats a guinea pig. Like he has a guinea pig and he just picks it up and goes into his mouth, gone. And you're like, did that man just eat a live animal in front of like 500 people? There's no way. There's no way. It's like, that's a moment that stands out to me a lot because I've never like, that's never even crossed my mind as a magic trick of something that I want to do is like, hey, what if I could just inhale an entire pet animal in front of people during a show? And it takes you so off guard. It's just hilarious. I should say no animals are harmed during that bit. But the other shows, we went to see Penn and Teller in their theater. And there was one trick that my friend said, hey, like there's one trick in this show that I'm not going to watch. I'm going to watch you watching that trick. And I was like, okay. And he was like, look, I had an amazing reaction to it. I just want to see the look on your face when it happens. So the entire show, like I'm watching and I'm like looking over at my friend being like, oh, that wasn't the trick. That couldn't have been the trick. And then sure enough, the trick does happen. And like my jaw just dropped. And I look over and my friend's just like laughing. And we're sharing this wonderful, wonderful moment together. It was also like the first time that I've seen Penn and Teller live and in person. in their own theater. I've seen them do like little bits before. I've seen them on TV. There's one time they actually performed in Kitchener Waterloo at a big theater because some company brought them in. They rarely leave Las Vegas, but there's something about them that they do magic differently, and they bring like another level of art to it. So I'd highly recommend them. The other moment from Vegas also involves Penn and Teller Fool Us. Is they were filming Penn and Teller Fool Us, their magic show that's on TV, and one of my friends was on it. And this is kind of my favorite. People bring up that show, and I'm like, let me tell you a fun fact. You can see my face on that show in the second row of the audience. So it's very disappointing. But yeah, one of my friends was on, and we went, a bunch of local magicians from London, and we were like dressed up nice. There's two beautiful women in front of us, but they're wearing like yoga pants. And the producer was like, you two ladies in the back, you three guys come to the front. And they sat us in the second row, and you can see us on multiple episodes and in multiple clips when they do audience shots, because I'm wearing like a bright white shirt and a red tie. And I got to see my friend perform on this TV show, but we also got to see like the behind the scenes of the TV show, because in between takes, there's like a comedian working the crowd to make it fun for the audience. And then they'll keep shooting, as well as like sometimes like production things will go wrong. It's like, oh, that light wasn't plugged in. We need to reset. Hey, folks, you've never seen this before, kind of thing. Like, but we got to do it again. Like, we didn't get the shot, kind of thing. So like things like that might happen every once in a while, as well as the hosts. They're wearing the same clothing because they film the show modularly, which means that you and I might be on the same taping, but we won't be on the same episode, just because we might need the same prop, such as like a pool table. Well, production only wants to bring in a pool table once. We're both going to do our trick with a pool table, but then we're going to be on different episodes because you don't want to see a trick with a pool table twice on the same episode.
Yeah, you don't have the audience to go, that's been done before. It's like, no, come on. Yeah, everything's been done. It's 2023, people. Let's go.
Right. So it was really cool to see like the behind the scenes, but also to support my friend who was on the show and see him do his stuff on such a grand scale.
Well, amazing. I'm loving all these stories, and I could speak with you all day, frankly, and stare at that mustache. What are you doing to that? Is that wax?
It is. This is very much a pandemic beard, and it's been a learning curve the last 3 years of figuring out what to do with this. But yeah, this is mustache wax. A lot of time and patience. So I'm understanding the opposite gender, and them, makeup and all that jazz, and getting ready, and why it takes so long. So.
Well, you look beautiful, and I'm very impressed. And I love every magic trick that I've seen that you've done. And it's been years that I've seen them, and I'm a huge fan. So last question. Well, two last questions, please. For men's health, we've been asking all the boys these questions. So for science, what kind of underwear do you wear?
That's a great question. For a while I was subscribed to MeUndies, so I'm pretty sure I have an army of those. Mostly because they're fun to wear. They have fun designs on them, and there's something that I can wear that you have no idea about that can make me smile. However, okay, this is a story for you. Is I went to see Darren Brown in New York. No relation. He's a UK magician, hypnotist. He's like the David Copperfield of the UK. And I went to his show in New York. And he got me to stand up, and he knew exactly what underwear I was wearing. He was like, "You're wearing underwear with ice cream cones and popsicles on them." And I was just like, yes, like what the just happened? So yeah, he's so far the only person to know exactly what I'm wearing.
That's amazing. And does MeUndies provide you good support for any athletic endeavor?
They have different not brands, but different. You can buy. They have different varieties that you can buy. So yes, they do.
So is that what you do? You're like, I'll boxer brief it, and I'll go, tighty whitey on Tuesday kind of thing, or what's your regular?
There was one that I was buying and it was shorter, but I preferred the one with like the longer, like further down the thigh. I think it's a combo of the two. I forget what it's called, to be honest.
I have to admit, I enjoy biker shorts for the thigh rubbage in the summer. So
Yeah.
I can understand your desire for leg, coverage as well. So thank you for talking about your underwear. That was lovely. And one last request, if I may ask, for you to say it loud, to say it proud. I love Newsload.
I love Newsload.
Thank you, Keith. I hope you have the most wonderful day. And please, everyone, check out Keith Brown's website wherever he is, all over the world. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
This is the Newsload.